Framingham has a recycling problem. A recent headline in the Metro West Daily News read, Framingham shifts money to cover a $171,000 recycling shortfall. The cost of recycling increased in the last year due to shifts in the global market. Framingham's recycling problem, it's a global problem, a global recycling program. And it's a garbage and waste problem which has been escalated by changes in China's import policies effective January 1st, 2019. The industry is in a heightened state of uncertainty, which makes it more important to start thinking about the things you throw out and recycle. Where do they go after they get picked up? Thinking about it and changing some simple practices is a way for everyone to make an impact. My guest today is Stephen Sarnowski, Framingham's recycling coordinator, and he has said that the first step in knowing how to recycle is knowing how to do it properly. Welcome, Stephen. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you.
It's been about almost 9 years, going on 9 years, since Framingham adopted single-stream curbside recycling in 2010.
Exactly.
Can you tell us, how that evolved beginning with 2010 and when you came on board as the recycling coordinator and some of the changes that you've seen since then?
Well, I'm under the impression that in 2010, the city or the town at that time decided to go into an automated recycling program, specifically as it relates to what they call single stream. Single stream recycling is really a convenience for everybody. It's a convenience for the recycler, it's a convenience for the processors, and it's a convenience for the buyers because you're able to put everything into one single cart as opposed to separating it out. That would be considered dual stream.
People used to have different colored plastic bins at the end of their driveways with, paper in one, plastic in another, and now it's all in one.
It's all in one cart.
That's good and bad, I suppose, as the industry has evolved.
It is good and bad, and that's where things are today, as far as like the bad is concerned. So as the years go by, people are happily recycling as they are told. Paper, plastic, cardboard, glass, and metal and aluminum. And as time went by, the industry began to change based on the buyers.
Because the items that you recycle are sold in a market.
They are sold in a market.
For reuse and manufacturing.
Exactly. So like I just mentioned, those are our top 5 most valuable recyclable items. So people may have heard in the news that China specifically has cut back on the amount of recyclables that they're willing to accept. And the reason why they're doing that is because of the contamination factor that they are facing. I think it was back in 2013, they implemented a program called Green Shield. And basically what that was they put the world, and to your point, it's not a U.S. problem only, it's a worldwide problem.
Worldwide problem, because most of the things that you pick up from the curb end up going overseas to China.
Exactly.
And they actually try to reuse it, reprocess it, etc. But it also contaminates their environment.
It really does. And so what the main buyer, who is China, wants to clean up its own environmental act. And I'm under the impression that there are a lot of operations out there that are acting independently of the government, meaning that there is no real restrictions on them or regulations and whatnot. So the best way for China to get around that is just to cut it off at the source, and the source is a global community. In 2017, China had announced what they call a national sword, which began in January of 2018, and that's where they had told the world once again that we're not going to take your junk, and they put a restriction or a threshold of 0.05% contamination or less. The processors in this country have told us that that's nearly impossible to meet. So we don't see an end in sight as far as the contamination is concerned. However, like you had mentioned earlier, markets do change. And I think once China or the Asian markets begin to get their own house in order, I think you're going to see those markets begin to open up.
It's so complex what you're talking about,
It's very
because
complex.
although the Chinese government is trying to cut it off at the source as a way to work around non-compliant operations, it may also have something to do with tariffs and trade overall between countries.
Yep, absolutely.
The other thing that I think is that's critical is that it's waste overall. Whether it's garbage or recycling, it's waste overall.
Right, exactly.
And we're talking about recycling, but obviously that also has an impact on trash.
Yep.
So how does that weigh into the whole equation?
Well, when you think about the technical term that the industry uses in Mass DEP specifically is diversion factors. So when we're diverting recyclables or types of trash, because to your point, it's all trash. So you have a diversion factor of, let's say, 30% in some communities, meaning that 30% of your trash is going towards recycling. Not a bad number overall. It could be a whole lot better. What we don't want people to get the impression is that we're going to stop recycling altogether. We don't want to go backwards with recycling. We just want to stay the course and get through this storm, because I believe domestic markets will begin to open up at some point once it's a viable source here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when Framingham introduced the single stream curbside, was there a big uptick in recycling following that?
I would say yes.
Because there's a whole lot of enthusiasm,
Sure.
I think, once people think,
Yep.
oh, I've got this big recycling cart, and I can fill
sure.
that and put less garbage out.
96 gallons.
96 gallons.
96 gallons
every
is a lot.
week.
Yeah, every week.
It was I think it was every other week in the beginning, and then it
Yep.
switched over to weekly pickup of the
right.
recycling.
Yeah,
and
when
people are filling those carts up pretty full.
Oh, sure. So when we talk about a diversion percent or diversion rate, the idea was to go weekly so we could get that diversion percent up, and I believe it has gone up, because we want people to recycle more, and so recycle more and throw away less trash.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you created a graphic to show people what they should recycle, the
Right.
5 top things
Yes.
that people should recycle, and you made it into a hand. This is something that's a good
Yep.
symbol to help people remember?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to speak to that?
Yep. So paper, so you have paper, metal, cardboard, plastic, and glass. Keep one thing in mind, that when we talk about paper, we want it to be clean, we want it to be dry. Like, that is to say, don't have any oil or grease on or anything like that. Tissue paper, there's all sorts of paper that you shouldn't recycle, and maybe we can speak to how to find that out.
You should recycle?
bit.
Yeah, because I had heard around the holidays that you should not recycle wrapping paper. Now, I didn't
exactly.
even know that. I
Yeah.
was always so thrilled to pick it all up
Yeah.
and put it in the recycle bin. So
Yeah,
knowing what
right.
kinds of paper is really
It's
important.
very, very important. Basically, paper that doesn't, wrapping paper that doesn't have any kind of tinsel on it, dyes, things of that nature. If it says all natural, that kind of thing, you could treat it as paper. But on the other hand, tissue is not really considered a recyclable item either.
So this whole process, as we were saying, starts at the curb. And
Right.
we can take a look at where that starts in this photo. Right here, there's a new type of truck that actually picks up the cart.
Exactly. That's an automated truck. The automated truck is really very efficient piece of equipment. It only takes one operator to operate the truck. And so they can, when I say they, I mean the operators, they can get through routes much more quickly than if they did it with one person driving and another person on the back of the vehicle. Right. It also reduces the chance of injury to a driver, and just makes things a whole lot more efficient for everybody.
So once this truck actually picks up the trash at the curb, empties it out, and you come home and put that cart back in and start filling it up again, all of that is taken to a location in Framingham?
Well,
first?
no, what happens is the operators will leave the facility at 7 in the morning, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, with the exception of holidays where they push it off to Saturday. And then they go to their routes, and every day there's a certain area that each truck is assigned to. And what they'll do is they'll pick up anywhere between 500 and 900 carts a day. All right, just for recycling, and another 500 to 900 for trash. So we'll double that. And then what happens is they'll bring that to the recycling to E.L. Harvey in Westboro.
Is that where the loading location?
That would be considered a tipping location. So the terminology would be tipping. So when you hear that, it's like, okay, the tipping floor is an area at E.L. Harvey's where the recycling truck will tip its recyclable material. Yep, right, exactly. So that's the tipping floor.
So everything really comes into this one location. And
right.
Off of the trucks that pick it up at the curb and comes into a location, this location.
Yes, exactly. And it's quite the operation. That loader right there, it's called the CAT. Because that's who the manufacturer is. They will pick up, I'm not quite sure how much material fits inside that bucket, but it's a lot. And then they'll bring that bucket over to a hopper.
Oh, okay, let's see what the hopper looks like. This is it?
Yep, that's a hopper, and that hopper will bring there's a conveyor belt that brings the material up to an area where it gets sorted. Yep. Well, there you go. That's a very good picture of the conveyor belt. And you can't see it from here, Audrey, but those stairs lead to an area where there are probably 10 workers or so, where they just sort through a lot of material. What they're doing is they're really picking through anything that is obviously trash. Things that really don't belong, like maybe car bumpers, as an example, might be one example.
And that's a manual process then? If
that's
you have people,
very manual, yeah.
So all this material that's coming down that sorter goes by on a table, a conveyor belt of some kind,
right.
with people manually picking stuff out that shouldn't be in there?
Right, exactly.
That's a tough job.
It is a tough job.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm under the impression that people who get motion sickness, they'll know right away whether they have motion sickness, because that's moving at a good, probably like a 1 mile per hour or so.
You know, you hear about these jobs you never even knew existed. And after the sorting, what happens to them then?
So the material, after it gets sorted, gets baled.
It gets baled.
Yeah.
So you'll have milk jugs, for example.
Yep. And they'll bale it by whatever particular. Okay, so there you go. There's a right here. You're looking at a photo of milk cartons. Milk cartons are a highly valuable plastic because it can be made into other milk jugs. It can be made into fence posts.
Now I see these in this bale have the caps on them. Do you want the caps on them?
Yes, they're asking us to keep the caps on them because the caps can fall through the equipment and get lost. So they prefer that the caps be on there so they can really retrieve the caps from the jugs, and so they can be recycled too. Okay.
And milk jugs, you said, are pretty valuable. What about aluminum cans?
Yep. Aluminum cans are highly valuable because they can be regenerated into aluminum over and over and over again.
Do they do the same thing with them?
Yes, they'll bale them.
They'll bale them up into the cans?
Yeah.
Like this?
Yep. So right there, both of those, you can see the numbers of how much those bales weigh.
So that's the weight of them.
Yeah, that's the weight. So that's 1,420 pounds, 1,266, 1,264. I think way on the far right, those are bales of plastic water bottles and juice bottles. Although I think juice and water bottles are separate, two different types of plastic. So it looks to me like they're water bottles.
Is this also where the cans go that are returned to the stores for the deposits?
Possibly. The only way, Yeah, I would agree with that. Whether Harvey takes them in, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Okay. And these water bottles you're talking about over on the right,
Yep.
they seem to still have the labels on them.
They will.
Is that a problem?
No.
Or no. And do you want, people always talk about water bottles being such a problem in the environment. Any comment on that?
They can be a problem if they're not dealt with appropriately. A lot of them still are not recycled, and they end up in the trash, and they end up in a facility such as a landfill or a burn facility. I'm under the impression that a typical piece of water bottle takes more years to decompose than the United States has been around. So that's a long time.
That's a really long time.
If these water bottles should happen to end up in the ocean, they will eventually degrade, but they'll degrade to such a degree that marine life will be affected by it. Chances are a turtle or something like that's not going to swallow a water bottle, but when they do get broken down to their finest points, marine life do forage off the bottom and they can ingest plastic. So that's really what we're looking at, just this constant breaking down over time and then marine life getting at them.
We're going to talk a little more about that later on, but with these bottles, the water bottles, do you want the caps on those too?
Caps on,
Okay,
yep.
Just like the milk jugs.
Exactly.
Okay.
And don't worry about the packaging.
Don't worry about the labels?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep, they'll take care of that.
After everything is baled up, is that when it hits the seas?
Exactly. What'll happen is they'll end up on a trailer or a container, and those containers are designed in such a way that so those bales will fit in there perfectly, because what they want to do is they want to fill those containers up. So this container is probably headed somewhere Asia Pacific bound. The one coming in on the left, it probably has goods on it. Maybe it has goods on it that were produced from another container vessel that went over there with our plastic and what have you. So it's really kind of an interesting operation to see these ships coming and going. And that looks to me like it's probably on the West Coast in San Francisco, judging from the looks of that bridge right there.
Okay, so, you know, these simple items that are in our homes that we're recycling travel and take quite a journey in order to get to a final destination.
Right.
And there's a lot involved with that, and it's a whole economy, it's a whole industry, and I think that it's a challenge because at the same time someone has to want to buy it and process it and turn it into something else,
right,
and be willing to do that.
Yep.
And you know, we at one point in time when as a society we weren't doing a whole lot of recycling, we had a lot of issues with landfills. We still do.
Exactly. I'm on the impression that landfills, at least in Massachusetts, are being closed. They're not long for Massachusetts, so anything that could be going out to the western part of the country. We do have one burn facility that I know of in the state, and that's out in Millbury. And a lot of material gets, it's called waste to energy. It's by Wheelabrator. And that facility is ultra efficient and ultra clean. You could go by there and not know anything was going on. All you would see is a stack. You could see it from the Mass Pike. You'd see a stack, but you may see some steam coming out in a cold day like we've been having, but it's really efficient, and so that turns waste into energy. I would say, I don't know that there's anything on the horizon in that regard as far as making more of them, producing more of them, but it's an option that we have. I think it's a better option than a landfill at this point.
Do you think that there's more to be talked about in the packaging industry
Yes.
as a proactive way of dealing with recycling,
Yeah.
as opposed versus the reactive way of collecting, sorting, processing,
Exactly.
remanufacturing?
Yep, I would agree with you 100%. A good case in point would be we at the recycling center here in Framingham, we get a lot of cardboard that comes in, and people are buying a lot of things such as television sets that have styrofoam in them. Styrofoam is one of those items that is really difficult to recycle. It's difficult to find anybody who will, buyers that will buy it. So subsequently, they do end up in landfills. So that's an area that, so packaging on the producing end, I think needs a lot of work. And they have, especially in the food industry, Ziggy's yogurt as an example. They have a way of where you can separate out their paper liner that's on the outside from the plastic. So if you're really conscientious about recycling, you just simply tear that liner off, clean out the container, and you can put them both in your recycling cart. And I think that's really a good way of handling things. A lot of manufacturers now you'll see have paper packaging. So as an example, the TV set has what looks like cardboard, but it's really, really stiff paper. And they package it up in there, and that's recyclable too. It's far more recyclable for that than it would be for styrofoam. Now, one thing, if you noticed earlier, there were weights spray painted on those bales. A 1 ton bale of styrofoam is a lot of styrofoam, and the facilities really don't have a capability of bringing in that much styrofoam and being able to package it up. So, because it has to be ground up, it's not compressed, because it has to be ground up and then compressed and then turned into blocks, and that block can get sold to a buyer. And it's really a lot about economics as well, as you mentioned earlier. It's a business. And if there's no buyers on the other end, that material ends up somewhere. It could stay stagnant, or it could end up in a landfill or a burn facility somewhere.
And we can't assume from looking at the cargo ship heading to Asia with all of the recyclables that they're going to take all of that.
Well, case in point, so we talked about what got us to this point was a lot of contamination.
The point we're at now where the industry is changing.
Where it's changed. So, this is the reason why our recycling costs have doubled in the city. And a lot of other cities are paying a lot more because of it. But we're all in the same boat as far as recycling costs have gone up. So it's a difficult situation, for us right now. Mm-hmm. So to keep things clean, I think it's a really good idea, and to keep things down to what they want. Not everything is recyclable per se in your recycling cart, because of the buyer situation. I recently found out that pill bottles for your prescription bottles are not recyclable in your cart. I'm like, that's interesting.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I found that out. So it's.
So how do people know what is and what isn't? I mean, people, once the carts were delivered, and they're big carts,
Yep.
people got more ambitious about recycling.
They
want to
did.
recycle as much as they can, and maybe they do too much and too many of the wrong things, but they don't necessarily know. And that's the key now, is educating people
Right.
to do it the right way. And we're trying to do that here today
Yep.
as part of the process. So how do people find out what's acceptable and what's not acceptable?
Well, there are several ways. The city of Framingham has gone on what I refer to as a outreach and education campaign to educate our residents about what can be recycled and what really shouldn't be recycled.
But you run the recycling, and you didn't even know that the prescription
exactly true.
containers weren't recyclable. How did you find that out?
Well, I went to I went to our website.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new program on our website.
Okay.
It's called the Waste Wizard.
Waste
Wizard. Mm-hmm. It's run by an organization called Recollect. And so what happens is, if the resident can go online to our website, the sanitation department, Framingham Sanitation Department.
So it's framingham.ma.gov.
Yes, exactly.
/sanitation, or do they just click on sanitation?
You can type in sanitation department.
Okay.
And you
I think
click
it's on the
that.
front, on the home page.
It is.
Yeah.
So it comes up, and there's and you have to look, but it's right there, and it'll say Waste Wizard. And so you click on that, and it comes up, and you type in anything you want. Prescription bottles. It'll give you the option, over the counter, or a medication, which is, like Tylenol, things like that, or prescription bottles.
Is there a difference?
There is. The material that like your Tylenol comes in is a different material than the prescription bottle.
And that is recyclable?
Right,
but
exactly.
The prescription bottles
is
are not.
Yeah, they don't want it. And so that's how you find out about things. So even the recycling coordinator can learn things from time to time.
Constantly learning.
Right, exactly.
Things are always changing, so you have to.
Right, things are always changing.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Were you surprised to find out any other things that you thought were recyclable that weren't?
If you go into the Waste Wizard, I was always under the impression pizza boxes were not recyclable because they have grease on them. Now, our material recovery facility, that is to say Harvey's, does not want greasy pizza boxes or pizza boxes at all.
Right.
However, other communities don't seem to have a problem with them because their MRFs are taking them. Okay, yeah, there you go. So I find it a little hard to believe that somebody would want that, a recovery facility would want that.
When you say their MRFs, what does that mean?
The MRF would be the Material Recovery Facility.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
You know the acronym. So ours, which is Harvey, does not take them.
Right, exactly.
So don't,
they don't want them.
Recycle the greasy
Exactly.
pizza boxes. What if you have one that, you just didn't drip anything on
Then
that
you can
box?
recycle it.
You can, but nothing can be
Nothing, yeah.
Okay, I mean, really, it has to be immaculate.
Yeah, it has to be immaculate. Like
Okay.
as clean as this box is right here.
Okay, gotcha. Let's talk about what we can recycle.
Okay,
And then we'll talk about first what we can recycle and look at, you brought some great samples for us to look at. We have some photographs, and then we'll talk about some things that people just should avoid putting in the recycle bin. Let's talk about paper.
Yep, paper. There's all kinds of paper out there. There's all different types of paper. So here you have, up in the right-hand corner, you have what's called, looks like Kellogg's Just Right. That's what they call paper board, a highly recyclable item. And don't worry about just because it has the writing on it and things like that. Don't worry about that at all.
Egg cartons, phone
Egg
books.
cartons, highly recyclable. The magazines, highly recyclable.
Good.
Newspaper. Then you have the envelopes with the windows is okay.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep, with the
Window
windows
envelopes
is
are okay. I for a while did not think that. Okay.
Then you have what looks like cardboard underneath it. Right now, we're really, really interested in the residents recycling their cardboard because
Let's talk
that's where
about
we're
that
getting
for a
some
minute,
value. Okay.
because you've got a sample of a box here, and you're talking about cardboard. Why is cardboard so appealing right now in the industry?
Cardboard is appealing, especially American-made cardboard, because it's a higher quality than Asian cardboard. And the reason why it is so highly valued right now is because it's one of the very few items that they're making money from.
Okay.
Okay.
So should you put this cardboard in your recycle cart or not?
Yes. However, the city, under the guise of the Department of Public Works, is rolling out a pilot program beginning in April. And we're encouraging residents who want to recycle cardboard only separately from their recycling cart. So you have...
You're encouraging people to participate in this pilot program?
Exactly.
What do they have to do to participate?
All they have to do is call us down at the Department of Public Works on Western Avenue, and I can give you the number.
Sure.
And then somebody there will take their name and number, and all they have to do is say, I want to be part of the cardboard.
Is there any fee involved?
There's no fee.
Do they have to buy anything, get any special containers?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
What is that number?
It's 508-532-6001.
Okay, 508-532-6001.
Right, exactly.
If you want to participate in the pilot program for recycling cardboard separately, outside of your recycle cart, to help the DPW and the sanitation department generate incremental revenue through good quality cardboard, then give that number a call, 508-532-6001, and sign up for the pilot program starting April 1st. So cardboard is special and just treated differently and is going to be handled through this pilot program?
Exactly, right. It'll be a separate process, how we pick it up. The resident will be given a separate recycling cart, which we did not have to purchase anything additional. We had them on hand.
Okay.
And that cart will be labeled cardboard only. And then
It's a cart, not a box?
it's a cart.
It's a
yeah,
wheelable
yeah,
cart. Okay.
Exactly.
And how big is it?
I'm not sure the exact size yet. That remains to be seen, but we'll figure that out once we get closer to the due date.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to do that, but they want to give you quality cardboard that's redeemable
Right.
at a higher value, should they leave it outside of the cart now or put it in the cart?
Right now, we do have a program where they can leave a quantity of recyclable.
What's a quantity?
A quantity would be big boxes. What we don't want to have, like, we wouldn't expect for you to leave just this out.
Right.
Go ahead and just recycle that. But I would say if you have a good amount might be a pile of cardboard. All you have to do is call that number again and tell them, I have a schedule to pick up. Usually it's going to be on the day that your recycling cart is picked up anyway.
Okay, so a call ahead to the sanitation department at that same number.
Right.
508-532-6001.
Yep.
To tell them that you have a stack of cardboard, and they'll pick it up. Someone will have to get out of the truck to do that.
Right. We're doing that now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the
we're doing
driver
that.
gets out of the truck?
Yep. The driver gets out. He comes by in a pickup truck. A nice gentleman.
Oh, so it's not the truck that picks up the cart?
Not at this time.
Okay.
And so what we're trying to do is get to that point where we're doing.
So someone with a pickup truck has a route, then goes out and picks up the cardboard that
Yes,
people have
exactly,
scheduled.
right.
Okay, good to know.
And that's free too. There is another option which a lot of people use, and we see it on the weekends, Thursday through Sunday. And for a $20 annual fee, you can bring your cardboard or whatever recyclables you have down to the recycling center at 255 Mount Wade Avenue. And that's another way to
So if you don't want to
recycle.
call and have it put on the curb, you can just take a trip down and drop it into the big
Exactly.
recyclable cardboard bin.
Now there is a $20 annual fee for that.
Annual fee
Yeah.
for all recycling
For all
at that
recycling.
location.
And that's a hard number to beat.
It is a
'cause,
hard number
yeah.
to beat. I mean, you can bring a lot of things there, mattresses,
Oh, sure.
carpeting,
Yep.
appliances, trash, all
Trash.
kinds of things. So
Yep.
the $20 isn't just to recycle cardboard.
right.
It's just one of those things. Okay, now you have some bottles here. Let's talk a little bit about recycling some of these glass things like
Sure.
bottles.
Yeah. So we have what I refer to as, well, and as we alluded to earlier, was the 5 most highly recyclable items. So the first one is going to be, okay, let's talk about bottles.
Yeah.
So the first one is going to be glass. Glass is a recyclable item. Don't worry about whether it has a paper on it or anything like that, but we do ask that you clean out the glass.
Clean it out, okay.
I don't think peanut butter comes in glass anymore, but if it did, do your best to clean it out.
That's a tough call. I mean, peanut butter
yeah.
is tough to clean out.
I gotta be right honest with you. I just throw it away.
Yeah.
Some things.
Well, is it better to throw it away or put it in there with some peanut butter in it?
Throw it away.
Throw
Yeah.
it away. If you're not going to get all the peanut butter out,
Just throw it
don't
away.
recycle it.
Exactly.
Because that's what contaminates the lot?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And what about bottles like this?
So a bottle like this has a paper on it. All you have to do is just rinse it real quick and just throw it into your recycling cart, and we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Now, it may get broken along the way, but at the material recovery facility where they process this, they have a way of removing the paper.
Wow.
Through high blast air, and it just blows it off. It's really remarkable.
What
how
about
they
the
do it.
caps that come off the bottles?
The caps, we don't recommend putting the caps back on in this case for beer bottles, as an example. But
Do you put them in the recycle bin?
well, what you could do that. You could separate them. But as far as caps on jars and stuff, it's okay to leave it on, because the way the process works is that once that glass gets broken, it goes through a facility they use magnets, and they remove it that way. They remove the metal that way. And they actually benefit from it because metal is a highly valued commodity as well.
So you can leave the caps on beer bottles and
I would say you probably
Not that
could
most
do
people,
that.
or you can throw them in with the beer bottles.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's very interesting to hear about. What about good old cans?
Yep, cans are awesome. And the reason why we like that is because there again, it's a highly valuable and very renewable product. And so you see up there, you've got some metal cans, what they refer to as tin, but they're really metal, they're not tin. Then you have some aluminum cans. Aluminum can be recycled indefinitely. Just make sure everything is as clean as reasonably can be.
I think I'm hearing a common thread here in terms of the cleanliness, especially the peanut butter was a great example. I'd put the mayonnaise jar up there with the peanut butter and say that that's a tough one to clean too.
It is.
These are pretty easy to just, swirl around and clean, and they don't have to be clean like spick and span kind of clean.
Not at
they
all.
just have to be
reasonably clean.
Reasonably clean. Okay, but if they're not, you'd rather advise us to just toss it.
Exactly.
Okay, throw it out. And then, of course, there's all different kinds of plastic. What about these, like the ketchup and the water?
I would say all of those are up there are very, very recyclable.
They all
the
look
milk
kind of
jug.
stretched out in the picture, but we know what they are.
Yep, the milk jug is very recyclable. You have, looks to me like you have mainly number 2. I don't remember the exact acronym for them, but
oh, so number 2, you mean the triangle with a number in it?
Yeah, exactly.
So at the bottom of most of these containers, there's a triangle with a number.
Right.
What numbers are recyclable?
Well, let's look at it in terms of their value. So number 1 and 2 is the most recyclable, value-wise. Number 3 is pretty good too. When you get up into the 4, 5, 6, and 7s, that's a different type of plastic. So we talked about the pill bottle, which is like I think a number 5 or a number 6.
Okay.
Not quite as recyclable. Coat hangers does not have a symbol on it, and
Plastic coat hangers,
not just throw them away. A plastic coat hanger's entire life is a plastic coat hanger, and that's all there is to it. That's what they lived for to be.
They live to be a plastic coat hanger. I love that.
So when we talk about plastic coat hangers and things that can be reused, that's what we want people to do. Reuse your plastic coat hanger if you can. If it breaks, it breaks.
Donate it.
We don't want you to tape it up and keep going with it. Just if you have to, throw it away. But it's not one of those plastics that is considered to be recyclable, even though people think it is, because it's plastic, right? And that's what people want to they want to do. They want to do the right thing.
They do.
And most people are doing the right thing. Just that we've been, over the years, have been told just put it in your cart, and that's how it's been going.
Let's talk now, let's shift gears a little bit and get a little more specific about what you should really avoid in the recycling process. And the first thing I do want to ask about is, can you put all of this stuff together in a bag and recycle it that way?
No.
Or are there no bags?
So I brought a bag of recyclable material here. And this bag is really awesome.
Let's look at the bag you're holding for a moment.
Yeah.
Let's see what's in there.
So what's in here is a plastic milk jug, what looks like a shampoo bottle, some paper, some glass.
But you're saying don't discard it don't recycle it this way.
No, don't recycle it this way.
Now, why is that?
The reason being is because at the material recovery facility, the machinery is moving fairly quickly, and the gentleman who or lady for that matter, who is up there, will not take the time to break this bag open. They don't have the time to do that. So it gets treated as trash. And so here you have some wonderful recycled material that will just be thrown in the trash.
What if it's in a paper bag?
Same thing.
Even though the paper bag's recyclable?
The paper bag is recyclable. So
but they don't want it in the bag.
And they want it in the bag. So what we're asking people to do is to just simply put it loose in your cart. Now that can be difficult for some places where you have to have a bag to bring it to wherever it is you're bringing it to. But it's important that you understand that if it's in a bag, and not all bags are clear. This is an example. A lot of bags are black or green.
Oh,
or
like the
whatever.
garbage bags.
The garbage bag.
Yeah, the garbage bags. No garbage bags is what you're saying.
No. So you can well imagine that when you open up this bag, you might get a bag of garbage. So now you've just created a bigger problem for that gentleman who's or lady who's trying to figure out what's in the bag. So they just basically, they just send it on its way and ends up as trash.
Okay, so no clear bags, no garbage bags.
And no paper bags.
And no paper bags. If you're going to recycle, but you can recycle the paper bags.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Even the ones with handles on them?
Even ones with handles.
But just don't put the things in the bag.
In the bags,
okay.
right.
Now, we already talked about pizza boxes, but what about electronics? You know, can people recycle wires and cables and things like that? Anything?
No, we have what we call,
Can't recycle those.
So here's a classic example of a tangle. So when you think of a tangle, think of things that get wrapped around things. Or wrapped around the machinery, I should say. So what gets wrapped around machinery are electrical cords, ropes, chains, plastic
machinery
bags.
at the facility.
Right, exactly, at the processor.
Yeah, I could see how that would create a real problem.
Exactly. So plastic bags is the #1 problem for the recycling
Plastic
facility.
bags?
Plastic bags.
Okay, so absolutely no
plastic
bags whatsoever.
Right.
That's interesting because, as you know, many communities have put bans on plastic bags, and now they're using paper in a lot of places, and people are saying, well, the paper's no better than the plastic.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate in that regard, and we're doing some research on it to see what the best option is for the city of Framingham.
Is the paper as bad as the plastic?
Well, some people would argue that it is, but some people would argue that it's not. Paper bags are compostable. Most of the ones that you find at the supermarkets have a specific recyclable content in it. I think it's anywhere between 30 to 60%. I want to say 60% recyclable material. And that material, if it does end up in a landfill, will most definitely decompose within a short period of time. As a matter of fact, if you were to have a composting operation in your backyard, you could actually compost those bags right into your compost pile. I know as a city, we do have some areas in the town where a lot of people have their own gardens, and a lot of people do have composters. And it's a great way. I would refer to it as a brown material, like a leaf, as an example, that you might find on the street. And so when we do pick up your leaves at curbside, we ask that you put them in paper bags, if you're going to do that, or otherwise you can put them in a plastic container. We'll dump it into the back of the hopper.
But plastic bags just seem to cause all kinds of problems. I mean, even I can imagine that they would get stuck even in some of the machinery. Or
they get stuck in the machinery in the fall, in the wintertime. I challenge people to look up in the trees, and you're going to find some plastic bags up there. So they blow around because they're really light. And they just take a really long time to decompose, if at all, in a landfill.
Now, in addition, we're talking about plastic bags, and we're saying that they shouldn't be recycled. But then again, there's a new pink plastic bag program in Framingham. I hope that bag is recyclable.
I do too.
But let's talk about the program. What is that program all about? That has to do with clothing, right?
Yep. They have the pink bag program in Framingham. Now, a lot of the residents ended up with simple recycling, did a mass mailing of these pink bags. And it's all about trying to reduce the overall tonnage of trash going into the trash carts. So what better way to do that than to have a pink bag that a driver can see along the side of the road. There again, it would be, if you do decide to use the pink bag.
Let's see the other side for a minute. Oh, yes. I've seen those. Now, again, what are the residents supposed to do? Hang them on the trash barrel? Put them next to the trash barrel?
Put them next to your trash barrel.
On the ground?
On the ground.
And so someone picks those up manually?
Yep.
Not the person, not the driver of the truck that takes your trash. So it shouldn't be tied to your trash can.
No.
I've seen that.
Yeah, well, the way the process works is when you fill up the bag, they're going to give you so they take the bag and they're going to give you 2 bags in return, and they're going to tie that onto your recycling cart, because otherwise it would just end up somewhere, it would blow away or whatever. So that's what they decided to do. When I say they, I mean we. Said, okay, let's go ahead and work that out. It seems like it's working out pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Where do those, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So what happens is you can also put your electronics in here if you decide to do that. They'll take electronics.
What kind of electronics?
You could put in your old, not TV sets, but just like a radio or a
CD player?
A CD player. Things of that nature. You could put your cords in there if you wanted to. We talked about tangles, electronic tangles, and things of that nature. An old alarm clock you could put in there.
That's interesting. That's news to me. So
Yeah.
you can put some electronics in there. Can you put them in there if there's clothing in there?
Yep, you can mix them up.
So it's clothing and electronics.
Clothing and electronics.
Okay, and you put it on the ground.
Yep.
Tie the bag closed. Put it on the ground next to your trash.
Trash or recycling.
Trash or recycle.
Yep. Exactly.
Is it the same thing as with the cardboard? Someone driving around in a pickup truck
Yep.
goes. You don't have to schedule this though.
No. You just put it out there. No worry about it.
They do the normal route. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So someone from Simple Recycling drives the route. We have given them route maps. Mm-hmm. And it's the same route that our drivers use. Our recycling drivers, and they'll just go from one street to the next looking for pink bags.
Okay. Now, does the contents of the pink bag end up in a charitable location that helps people in need, or is it a for-profit?
It is a for-profit organization. They have to be in order to, because they have a fleet of vehicles that they have to maintain, and there are people that they have to pay, and I think there is some profit left. I don't know about that information, but in order for them, it's a business.
And is there any revenue coming to the city from that at all?
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a very important point.
Okay.
Is
it a revenue sharing type of agreement?
Well, it's not really revenue sharing per se. So proceeds of the pink bag, of the contents, a certain amount of it, of the proceeds go to the Framingham Recycling Scholarship, the Framingham Scholarship Fund, to a student who shows an aptitude towards recycling in the city of Framingham.
How often is a scholarship granted, and at what grade level?
Every year at the 12th grade.
Do you know how much the scholarship is?
Last year we gave away $1,226 to an individual at the Framingham High School. So I think it's a pretty good program. Proceeds from Simple Recycling, as well as the Recycling Drop-Off Center. We have a container down there, and so those proceeds go there too. A percentage of it. Mm-hmm. They pay us per ton.
Is this on a trial basis?
No,
we're just testing it out, or is this program here to stay?
This is here to stay.
Okay.
Well, we have an agreement with them. I think it's a 3-year agreement. This will be the 2nd year, so we have another year to go.
Okay.
And that's how it works in the city. Everything's done by agreement in this regard. But so far, so good. We haven't had any trouble with it, so we're happy with it so far. And there again, the main drive here is to reduce tonnage that we have to pay out of the taxpayer dollar. So.
Well, right now, because the recycling in the single-stream carts is not necessarily as high quality as it should be because of contamination, and because of what's happening in China, with China increasing their standard, raising their standard of contamination, lowering it, I should say, to 0.5%.
Right.
It used to be between 1% and 5%, and now they've lowered it to 0.5%. That means that anything people are putting in that recycle cart that doesn't belong there is potentially going to cost us.
Exactly.
And we've got to be really careful about that.
Most definitely.
How can you do better and more, I should say, just to get that word out to help educate? I know this is one way, obviously.
Exactly.
And League of Women Voters has helped. Mm-hmm. Others are jumping on board after they initiated the dialogue, and here as well. And to try to help educate people and so that they understand. But really the best way to talk to people about recycling is through that recycle card. Is there anything that can be done to either find people who aren't doing it properly or put something on the carts to help educate people? What's next? What's coming?
Well, we've already initiated a program where we have gone out to some of the neighborhoods, specifically on the Monday route. We started the Monday route, and we have put on their carts a how-to recycle. It has to do with
when did that start?
That started in December.
Okay, so it is very new.
Yeah, and of course, Mother Nature intervenes.
Right.
So we've had to put it on hold because of snowstorms and bad weather. As soon as things start to calm down once again, we'll go right back at it.
That's an education process that you're going to do every day. You're starting with the Monday route and you're going to work your way through the week. What about habitual violations?
Exactly.
You go to empty these recycle bins and they're just filled with all the wrong stuff.
Right.
What are you going to do?
So I, as a recycling coordinator, part of my position is enforcement, curbside enforcement, and the drivers also enforce problems as well as the supervisors. So we have a form that's been in process now for quite a few years, where we basically tell the resident, from an educational standpoint, why it is we didn't pick up their recycling cart or their trash cart.
Oh, so you won't pick it up at all?
We
You'll
won't
just
pick
leave
it
it
up.
there?
We'll leave it there. And that's really we feel like the most effective form of communication. And what happens is, on the form, it'll tell you exactly why we didn't pick up your cart. And we simply check a box, and we will put a brochure on there, a flyer, the same flyer that we use to educate people throughout the town. And it'll say, these are the 5 most highly recyclable items, and things that you shouldn't put in there, and what it is. So as an example, plastic bags is now the focus. But it's not just plastic bags, it's plastic bags that may have something in it that's not recyclable.
Where should people take their plastic bags?
They can take it to any grocer in the city of Framingham.
And are the grocers truly recycling them? Do you know?
I don't really know. But however, they must be getting a lot of them, because, as an example, Stop and Shop is a big grocer. Market Basket is a big grocer. So when you go into either one of those operations, you're going to see a container for plastic bags, and you can simply put your plastic bags in there. And plastic bags is we talked about having to sell things by weight. And it takes an awful lot of plastic bags to make a 2,000-ton cube.
Absolutely.
And so they could very well have a baler where they're in their facility where they're baling this.
Right.
And they can sell it or just give it away, for that matter. But
will you be following up to see if they are truly recycling those plastic bags?
I will do that, Audrey, and I think it's a great idea just to see, okay, hey, what are you doing with your plastic bags?
Right.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
Come at it from an educational curiosity standpoint and see exactly where they're going. Because somebody wants those plastic bags because they can turn them into other items. It would be, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a good idea to just dump them in a landfill somewhere.
Does that include the plastic bags the newspapers are delivered in?
Yes.
You can recycle, you can put those in with all the plastic bags when you drop them off at the
Right.
supermarket and some of those locations.
Exactly.
So it's supermarkets, okay. Now, obviously, you talked about stickers, you talked about creating the helpful hand so that people know what are the main items that they should be recycled. But I've also seen that you created a video, and this video is to help educate people about the whole process, and it's a really, really nice video. What went into creating that?
Well, we partnered, DPW and myself partnered with our communications arm of the DPW, and as well as the Framingham government channel. And what we did was we came up with a scenario where we thought it would be good to put it all together in a video form and determine what can be recycled and what you shouldn't recycle. And then have a link where people can go and say, okay, I want to know more about this, and they can just simply type that in there. So a resident who's curious about that particular video can go to the Framingham government channel, and in the search engine, type in recycling contamination.
Okay, well, let's give them a preview, and
All
if
right.
they want to watch it again, they have a place to go, but let's show them the video now.
Let's do it. Hi, recycling contamination is an issue facing communities across the nation. You may have heard in the news that the recycling industry is undergoing major changes that are forcing communities to address the issue and clean up what's in their recycling carts. You can help us tackle this important environmental issue by making sure you only fill your recycling cart with these items: plastic containers such as plastic bottles and milk cartons, metal and aluminum food containers, glass bottles and jars, mixed paper such as newspapers and cereal boxes, and cardboard. These items must be cleaned and emptied to be recycled, otherwise they contribute to the contamination. Common recycling mistakes include plastic bags and film, garbage, clothing, electronics, greasy pizza boxes, and bagged recycled items. You can empty these recyclables right into the cart. Remember, when in doubt, leave it out. For more information on recycling in Framingham, visit us at our website, framingham.gov/recycle.
Well, I'm glad we were able to give a preview of that, and people can go see it again on the Framingham MA
definitely.
website. And it looks, you know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and we certainly shared a lot of pictures today. Is there anything else you want to show that we didn't get to or highlight?
I think we covered a lot of ground,
We did.
The hour went by very, very quickly. And
Right.
I thank you for having me on. And we really look forward to, getting the contamination level down to where it needs to be.
We need to work together as a community to make that happen. With everybody being informed, it's going to happen a lot quicker and a lot better. So I appreciate all of your efforts.
Well, thank you.
And thank you so much for being on the program today, and keep up all the good work.
Well, we have a motto at the Recycling Center. It's recycle right and recycle often.
I like it. And when in doubt,
leave it out.
Leave it out. Thanks, Stephen. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Stephen certainly made us aware of some small but critical changes with really big impact. Number one, don't put cardboard into your single stream recycling cart if you can instead stack it and call up for a pickup. Especially if you have a quantity of it, not just a single box like this, but a quantity of it. Also, sign up for Framingham's pilot cardboard program, which goes into effect April 1st. Recycling cardboard separately makes money, and recycling it with everything else can cost more money. Use the Waste Wizard app on the city sanitation page of Framingham's website to identify what can and can't be recycled. Go to www.framingham.ma.gov, click on Trash and Recycling on the home page, and then you'll click on the Waste Wizard option. And you can enter an item like those prescription bottles to see if they are recyclable. And when in doubt, throw it out. Stephen pointed out that putting the wrong things into the recycling cart ends up contaminating the entire batch and costing the city more money. Talk about this with your friends and family and help spread the word. It's easy and it's impactful. And thanks to City Councilor Mike Rossi for today's topic suggestion, and thanks to everyone who's working to help shed more light on this topic throughout the community. And thank you for tuning into the Audrey Hall Show, where you will always learn something new.